Hello, I'd like to apologize in advance for any background noise because I'm doing this at the library. And libraries in Norway are kind of funny that way because what they are places where people on the weekends take their children to play and have a nice time, which I think is amazing, by the way. But if you come to the library for peace and quiet, it is not the place for you to be. But that's where I am right now. And I'm going to try to make this work. I'm recording this video because I don't know that everybody that's supposed to be at Selbu High School for my talk, Black Excellence is Black History too, will be able to attend. Some people live very far away and don't have another means of getting here. So, here we are. Black excellence is Black history too. Let us uplift Black voices instead of solely dwelling on the ugly side of our history. So, what is that all about? I know, I know. You say Black history, people go, oh, slavery, slavery. Of course, slavery. The Blacks were slaves, right? They were taken from Africa in huge ships and they became slaves. And then the white people freed the slaves. And then they became whatever it is they became. Most black people are criminals. Most black people are uneducated and poor. Most black people are not attractive. Most black people are dumb. Of course, I'm, I'm exaggerating a bit, but this, believe it or not, is the view of black people that some folks in the world have, which is not fantastic. I think we'd all agree that's not fantastic. Well, but Pollyanna, a lot of black people are thieves. A lot of black people are uneducated and poor. A lot of black people are in prison. A lot of black people are this and that. And I hear you. A lot of white folks are all of those things too. A lot of Latinos are like that too. A lot of Asians are like that too. A lot of Europeans are like that too. That's not, let us not put everyone in this ugly, horrific box of negativity. So, my idea with this talk here today is to give you something that will be different from what you know about about Black history. So let's get started. Before I even begin, how many of you can name the people on this picture right there? Here we have The Weekend, the five beautiful ladies representative of Black beauty, not in Black beauty contests, but they all won international beauty pageants over the past couple of years. And people might think of this as not a big deal, as not something you should be proud of. How superficial is that? Beauty, who cares about that? Listen, there was a time when Black people were looked at as ugly animals that were used as slaves, that people wouldn't look at even as a human being. So to go from that to winning beauty pageants and being looked at as attractive, valuable women, that's a long stretch. And also, it uplifts the self esteem of a lot of women out there who feel like they're ugly, like they're not valuable. You can hear the voices in the world telling them blondes have more fun, which I'm all for. Yay, yay, blondes. Blondes have more fun. Gentlemen prefer blondes. And they talk about their redhead women as being so exciting and fun and beautiful. Asian women, so exotic, so beautiful. look at the Latinas and how they're so spicy and beautiful. And then they might not even think of Black women as beautiful at all. And you can roll your eyes as much as you want, and you can think, what is she talking about? This is not even relevant to history. It's still part of the society we live in. So I decided to honor Black beauty. Who else do we know? Nelson Mandela. Everybody knows who he is. President Obama. He was the first Black man to become the President of the United States. And then some racist white person who really doesn't want Black people to have anything of value will say to you, well, he's not really Black though. Isn't he half white? Maybe. Look at him. He is a Black man. And he might be mixed. I'm mixed. Yeah, here I am standing here in front of you, blacker than Wesley Snipes. I'm mixed with a lot of different ethnicities. I'll show you my ethnicity map in a bit if I have time. I have so much I want to say. I do not know if I'll be able to cover everything. But let's blow straight past that one. Nelson Mandela. Kelly Rowland. Who's Kelly Rowland? Who knows who Kelly Rowland is? She was one of the girls in Destiny's Child alongside Beyonce. The difference between her and Beyonce is that she has darker skin. She has some success in music, but not the same type of success that Beyonce has. But I'm honoring her today. I am honoring her because somebody has to in society. Why am I doing this? I know that people might be wondering what the purpose of this is. Hey, why do we have to come here at 8:30 in the morning to listen to Pollyanna? Who is she anyway? Is she the crazy woman that walks past the halls all covered in 15 layers of clothing with a mask on? She just runs past us like some sort of crazy person. What does she even do here? Who is she? Right? Why do we have to listen to Pollyanna talk about this? Why couldn't our teacher tell us whatever it is that she's going to say? I'll tell you. So, I have been a teacher for 34, almost 35 years, and I've taught in different places. Norway is not my first rodeo. I taught for 12 years in Brazil, a couple of years in Australia. I have been a public speaker in both Australia, New Zealand, the United States, and Brazil. And when I came to Norway, I already had under my belt 12 years of experience in Brazil and a couple of years in Australia as a teacher and professor. For those of you who don't know, I actually have a bachelor's, a master's, postgraduate. I am somebody who has all the degrees that a person needs to become a teacher. I am qualified as an educator. My bachelor's is in teaching English, Portuguese, Spanish, literature in these languages, and all the techniques, methodologies, and approaches in teaching language and literature. So that's where I'm coming from. And when I did my master's, I chose English literacy, which is something that anybody can teach native speakers as well as non native speakers. So I could be teaching English to native speakers, like as a subject in school. not so much as a language like I do here. So let's get to the difficult part. My voice may or may not crack in the middle of this. I'm already apologizing for it. I spent 23 years, almost 23 years now, in Norway teaching. Not always here at Selbo High, so I do not want people to try to guess where whatever I'm going to tell you happened, because I'm not going to name schools. I'm not going to name a school because I have an incredible amount of respect for my workplace, present and past. So do not try to find out where it happened so you can go send hate to whomever. I'm not going to name names here. I'm just going to give you the experience. So I've taught at many schools, like a dozen schools in Norway. The other night I was counting, and it's actually not just 10, it's more like a dozen. Always as a substitute teacher. They'd bring me in. Hey, we desperately need a Spanish teacher. Our Spanish teacher had a problem with her pinky toe, and she's on leave of absence, medical leave, for a year. We need a Spanish teacher here. So I would come in, teach Spanish for a year. Somewhere along the line, somewhere along the way, they would find out, wow, she actually has a degree in English. Let's give her some English to teach as well. And then they throw me a bone, give me some English as well. I'd be teaching English and Spanish. I'd fall deeply in love with the work and just embrace the students as my own kids and be having the time of my life. And then they say, you know what? Your time is up. We're going to go ahead and bring back the lady with the problem in her pinky toe that's all healed now. And we're just going to hire somebody else for English. Bye bye now. And there I would go and restart the process. It was not the pinky toe thing is just I'm just trying to be cute. But it could have been different things. People go on leave of absence because they're having problems with anxiety. Totally valid, by the way, in how we live in a world that just treats us in a very rough manner. All of us, human beings of any color. I can understand someone needing to take a break. But then a vacant spot would open for a teacher. They wouldn't give that to me. They would always give it to somebody else. Let us just say that in all my years of experience and all the education that I have, that I was really bad at teaching, right? Wouldn't they get rid of me in the middle of my substitute thing that I did? It's up for debate. But this happened in many different schools where I worked for a year, 2 years, and I would never get a permanent job. Listen, I am by no means saying they looked at me and said, "Oh, no, but she's black. Let's not give it to her." It wasn't like that. There's something called systemic racism, which comes from above, right? The laws and regulations of different countries are designed in a way that consequently will affect people of color negatively. So it's neither here nor there. But I do know women who are not women of color. I know at least a couple of them who are Brazilian, but they're white passing. And these people were able to obtain a permanent position a lot more easily than I did. Let's just leave it as that. So, 23 years in Norway. Sometime in the middle of those years, I experienced horrible, horrible instances of racism. And I know that you're thinking, oh, somebody called you the N word? That too, but that wasn't the only thing. People don't realize the little things that they can say that can cause a person to hurt on the inside and feel discriminated against. I'm not going to name names, like I said before, or go through every single instance, but I've been called racial slurs. I have been treated differently in comparison to the other teachers. Students would respect any other teacher that walked in and do whatever they said, but never do what I said. They would have a problem with any other teacher and they'd be fine. But if it was a problem with me that they were having, they'd go try to get me to lose my job. I've been treated differently in a negative way because of the color of my skin. Let that sink in. And I cannot and I will not name names, name schools, but I'll tell you that this had never happened to me in any other country. And it took me quite a long time for that to happen in Norway as well. I thought that I was safe in a classroom. Make no mistake, I get discriminated against all the time under different circumstances. I get discriminated on the bus. I get discriminated against when I go into a store and I'm accused of stealing. They will let all the young white girls that have been shoplifting the hell out of the store, they have lipstick in their underwear. They have stolen everything and they walk straight past. But when I try to walk past to leave the store, they want to search my bag. And this happens a lot more often than you would think. I am discriminated against in society in Norway at the very least once a week, sometimes more than that. Whether it's a negative comment, whether it is somebody on the bus talking in a very loud voice, complaining about all those Africans that the government has taken in. They're infesting our society. And I know they're talking about me because they saw me getting to the bus. They want me to hear that. Does not feel fantastic. Not at all. Last year, I told some stories when I did this. It wasn't the same. Last year, my talk was named Surviving as a POC in Norway. This year, it is Black Excellence, uplifting Black voices. There's a reason why I taught that last year and why I changed the theme this year. This year, we'll get to that. So, I'm going to use the instance when I'm going to put this in a way because I don't want to create any problems, but the story has to be told. Without giving any details, I'll tell you. I was attacked, verbally attacked, with a racial slur, with the N word. I'm not going to tell you how it happened. Let's just put it out there. So I had two choices when that happened. I could go with all the emotion that I felt on the inside, and I could do what that teacher in, I forget the state in the US, but he punched the student who called him the N word. Punched him. Not once, not twice. He just threw that kid on the ground and beat the crap out of him. So the brother lost his job, lost his license, and went to jail. So, was he part of the problem or part of the solution? I'm going to say problem because violence doesn't get us anywhere. So I decided I wanted to be part of the solution. I started to talk about Black history in my classes. I started to teach my students why it's not okay to use racial slurs, what kind of microaggressions are not okay. I mean, microaggressions are not okay in any circumstance, but there is a background, a historical, cultural background for all of those things. And I don't know how much I'll be able to cover in this talk, but I'm going to give it my best shot because education is freedom, and not the freedom from the chains of slavery, that too, but also the chains that keep us stuck in a racist place without knowing that we're being racist. Yes, I'm saying we're all humans. We all make mistakes. And sometimes people act racist in a racist manner without knowing that they're doing so. What is Black excellence? Let's talk about Black excellence because this is the main topic here. Black excellence. Extreme excellence. Excellence meaning magnitude of positivity, achievements, accomplishments, everything that's fantastic. Extreme excellence demonstrated by Black people despite racist systems, beliefs, etc., that make it harder for them to achieve success or to be recognized for their accomplishments. What's an accomplishment, right? And then you're going to give me examples like the richest Black people in the world, the Snoop Dogs of the world, right? All of the actors, Denzel Washington, Halle Berry. Perhaps those references are too old for you all, but the older people in the room will know what I'm talking about. That's not what I'm saying. Black excellence is not only that. Money does not equal success. Not always, anyway. So I can only speak for myself with the depth and detail that I am going to do this morning. So I'm going to tell you what my journey was like. I don't know how many of you know Trevor Noah and how many of you have read the text Born a Crime. Unlike Trevor Noah, I was not born a crime, I was born free. And I was given the name Pollyanna after the American character in one of the most positive books ever written, Pollyanna, and the sequel, Pollyanna Grows Up. So my dad read the book and named me after that. I grew up in the United States and in Brazil. I had a very, I don't want to say wealthy because we were not rich, but we had everything that Black people in Brazil and in the US, I would say, on average, wouldn't have. I had a very well to do upbringing. I traveled around the world. I went to the best schools. I had a fantastic education. And this goes back to what I said before about education. Education is freedom. Both my parents are educated. My dad, may he, may he rest in peace, he was an engineer. And I almost feel like I have to explain this because I've gotten a few reactions from people saying, "Well, an engineer, what was he? An electrician? They fixed things." You don't have to be educated for that. No, an engineer, like an electrical engineer, is somebody that goes to university, at least in Brazil and in the United States, for all I know. You have to go to university 4 to 5 years. And in addition to that, get a master's or a postgraduate or some sort of specialized field of education to do it. My mom was an educator like myself, but she did not teach English. She taught mathematics, which I, surprisingly enough, am very bad at, and science. And at the time, 70s, they got married, they had me. That was when that education was freedom for them and gave them a very good living. We had cars in a garage, we had a beach apartment. In addition to the apartment, the nice condo where I grew up, we traveled, we could afford everything that I probably can't afford here in Norway now. Now, if you're wondering what that 1981 thing is, I'm going to tell you what it is. And I hope I can get through it without being too emotional. And if you burst into laughter at some point when I'm talking about that, I forgive you. And I forgive myself as well for laughing at it now. It's been, I'm very bad at math. It's been way over a decade since that happened. So I'm able to talk about it. Sometimes I cry, sometimes I don't, but I'll tell you what the story is. Okay. So picture this. I'm 9 years old and I'm going to a private school where everybody is a lighter shade than my shade. And I'm using a euphemism here because most people would be white passing or white in my classes. Except that I did not know that. How did you not know that you were black? I never thought about it. I had my little friends. We played together. We had classes together. I was happy, just like everyone else. I had never experienced racism in any of my classes with any of my classmates. I was fine. Your girl was living her best life. And then the new teacher comes. Her name was Valdetti. Don't know her last name. She she was a white lady with curly hair. She's kind of pretty. Green eyes. She always wore a long jean skirt and flowered shirts. She was kind of chubby. I didn't care much for whatever she looked at. Um, Now my voice starting to crack. But I have to tell the story because if I tell the story, the more people I reach, the more I can make a difference in this world. Go to the next video for part 2.